Happy Monday! Bonus episodes, my friends! This makes me so happy. I'm so glad I get to do this. My name is Danny Akatsuki. I work for Trimark Security, and it is Trimark Security on the show that you are watching. We do this, well, we do our happy, people know, and hopefully you're new, maybe you don't know. We do a show every Friday. We call it the Happy Hour here on twitch.tv. And, it's Vegas time, and I get giddy. I'm a big 332-pound child when it comes to Vegas and DEF CON and B-sides. I have often said it is my New Year's, it is my Christmas, it is everything rolled into one. This will be my 8th year, I think, and so I said, why don't we just do some extra episodes? Matter of fact, Russ Rogers, Vertigo on Twitter had also said something that that it really struck home for me. And don't worry, I'll get to my guests in a second, but I want to explain why we're doing extra episodes. Is, he was like, hey, when you're in Vegas and you're having these conversations with people, like, pull aside an old head. Like, if you find a goon that's busy, you see a 20-year badge or a 10-year badge on a goon, talk to him, pull him aside and be like, tell me about DEF CON, tell me about the time, how long you've been here. Have those conversations. It's the kind of stuff you can't get recorded, because a lot of us don't like pictures. So in that vein, I said, let's do some extra episodes. We're doing 2 today, as a matter of fact. Later tonight, 5 o'clock Eastern, we have Snow and JC from the new Social Engineer Community Village at DEF CON this year. 2nd year, I believe. But first, and selfishly of me, because it's my favorite thing, graciously enough, we have Investigator Chic, who is a constant on this show, whether in chat or as a guest, both sometimes, and Riverside, who they are part of the Wall of Sheep in the Packet Hacking Village. First of all, hello, Riverside. Welcome to the show. You're the newbie here.
I don't get called a newbie very often, but thank you.
I know this is one
being invited to the show.
It's one of the only opportunities in the very small context to call Riverside anywhere near a newbie. And now that it left my mouth, I actually feel really bad about using that term. But welcome to the show. I'm very happy to have you here. Riverside, been around for a very, very long time. And of course, Investigator Chic. How are you, Doctor?
I'm good. I'm feeling much like you are, a lot going on, excited, apprehensive, all at the same time.
Yeah, this year, I don't know what it was, but it took me a little longer to get into, like, the whole groove of it, right? Like, the whole hype of it. And I don't know what it was. Maybe I'm just getting old, and maybe that's it. But then all of a sudden, like, the schedules started coming out. And then I also run a contest there, Who Sly Is It Anyway? Friday night, 7 p.m., by the way. And then that happened, and then my guys were creating all of their slides, and we're going over them and uploading them. Well, they're going over them. I'm notorious for never looking at any of the slides that they create, because every year somebody presents on the slide and it has a message, like, mocking me for some reason. But now I'm excited. Like, I'm very excited. It's my 3rd on-floor year as a goon. That pesky virus robbed me of 2, but that's fine. But enough I talk about myself all the time, and it gets old. I can only imagine how old it gets for other people, let alone hearing, myself talk. What is the Packet Hacking Village? And I'll throw this to Riverside. Tell us about Packet Hacking Village. Tell us about Wall of Sheep.
Sure. Well, I can go way back.
Yes, way back.
20+ years. I could even go back further. So the first time that we did anything that was related to the Wall of Sheep was at the Alexis Park, DEF CON 8-ish time frame. We're at 31 right now. And there were a group of us, just literally random attendees, sitting around drinking at an open air area with round tables in a space. And we happened to see a network jack open on the floor. And, we're curious hackers. Well, why not look and see what the heck could potentially be on that network jack? And so we plugged in and started sniffing the traffic, and lo and behold, found everybody's information, all the passwords, all the logins. I mean, there was no encryption at the time. It was a gold mine of information. It was insane. And so we kind of looked at each other, and we didn't really quite know what to do with it yet. And I'm like, oh well, okay, let's start scribbling up some of these on a sheet. And originally we were making it kind of a wall of shame and shaming people into using better security at HackerCon. You're supposed to be the best of the best. You shouldn't be doing, things that they were doing in the clear, connecting to root servers for like major infrastructure and all sorts of other things. It was kind of scary even for back then. And then at one point, we just looked at each other like, oh my God, there's so many of them. And yeah, it's like sheep. And then that's kind of how it became, that just herds and hundreds of these credentials. And we ran out of paper. And so I ran over to the pizza booth that happened to be there. And I don't remember how I acquired the paper plates, but they got a giant stack of paper plates were acquired. And I brought them back to the table, and we had Sharpies, and we started drawing sheep and writing credentials, the usernames and passwords on these plates, and taping them to the wall. And so there were these sheep names and dozens and dozens of plates across this 50-plus foot wall. And I don't know, there might have been hundreds of plates with usernames and passwords of people on the wall. And that's how it became the wall of sheep. It was just credentials and things like that.
And that was how many DEF CON? Like what? Like was that like one?
I think it was DEF CON 8, around DEF CON 8 time frame that we did that. And after that, it was great, but we got yelled at for taping things to the wall. Casinos and hotels don't like that, especially when you use duct tape. You can use gaffer's tape, but they still tape it. So they're like, no, don't ever tape plates to the wall again. Shame on you. You should know better. And why not? So I spent the rest of the time after summer writing an application that became what is known now as the Wall of Sheep app, and people see that. But a lot of people don't realize that there are actually many apps. There's the app that gets projected onto the wall, and then we have an app that collects the information. Then we have a sheep herding app, as well as a sorting app, because a lot of people try to intentionally get onto the Wall of Sheep. They're like, oh, look, I tricked them. I got my name on the wall. And then they want to go take a picture up there.
Sure.
And so we look at the data with human eye, and then we'll just ignore it. We'll put it into a junk pile. But then at the same time, if they did log in to a real site with clear credentials, I mean, it's a legit capture. So, we have to play that balance. But we've gone from there for years using that. And that's what the Wall of Sheep originally was. And you asked how it turned into the village, and how, Investigator Chic and all the other people came to be. There was a small group of us, and I started lugging the laptop and a projector, and we projected it onto the wall. We didn't get a projector screen back then. We were just taking a personally owned projector and projecting this onto a wall. Like, well, what are they going to do? They can't say anything. We're not taping anything to the wall. So, and as they would boot us out of an area, we just move our gear over. Or we're going to just project it over here. And at some point, they realized we weren't going away. And they're like, all right, well, you can just have those couple tables there and go. And they just kept giving us a little bit more space, and we would bring tables together. And each year we would kind of set up and become a thing. And it became official-ish in around, DEF CON 10 or so, as a thing. It wasn't a contest, and it wasn't a village at the time. There weren't villages back then, but there were things going on. And we spent a lot of time looking at packets and analyzing the traffic going across the DEF CON wire. And they actually gave us a full feed at some point. And at one point in time, we had literally all the traffic across the entire event. Over time, that's reduced significantly as we would capture like press credentials or authors that are submitting. I'm not pointing. But we had in around DEF CON 18 or so, there was an author who was publishing his book at DEF CON, and he plugged his laptop into the DEF CON network and sent a bunch of things. So we had his book and his credentials and all his things. And so we actually called him over. We got a hold of somebody to say, hey, come over here. We need to help you lock your laptop down. And but it just kind of grew. And I realized at some point so let me step back a moment. I was a goon at DEF CON for many years. I did night shift for a decade. And by day I did Wall of Sheep, and it was exhausting. And as I got older, I had to kind of focus and choose what I wanted to do. So I retired as a goon after my 10-ish plus years or so. And then focused really on more than just the Wall of Sheep. As you fast forward about 10 years or so, it got rather boring for myself and some of the others doing the same thing over and over. We're missing out on talks, we're missing out on contests and doing this and doing that. But we really like what we're doing. Maybe we should just have a talk here. And maybe we need some music. Maybe we should just put on some music. So the first thing we did is one of our guys, Precocious, who's the head of the Wall of Sheep DJ community, he brought a giant speaker from Michigan out to con, and we plugged in and he DJ'd off that giant speaker for years. And then other DJs are like, this is awesome. I want to run some. Can I do some? And he's like, sure, you can do some sets. I'll go and do this. And so that's kind of how we had DJs playing music while we're doing the Wall of Sheep. And then we got a couple speakers. Mike Osmond, the creator of Great Scott Gadgets and the Hack RF1 and all of those, he spoke at this teeny little 6-foot table with a speaker while there's all this madness going around. And we eventually turned into a full talk track, and we got workshops, and we built this thing into what we wanted to attend and do and be at with the people that we wanted to be around, instead of going to all the different other places and attending all of those, which we couldn't because we were stuck there. We brought it to us, and that's kind of how it turned in.
Is it so much of an institution now that you still have to go? Do you still go through the submission process every year, or is it just no? This is part of DEF CON now.
So DEF CON requires everybody to go through submission, but legacy villages get an auto accept if they request to become a village the next year.
Nice.
Yeah, we're considered one of the anchor villages, and when the DEF CON team is planning out where everything is going to be, they make very strategic decisions on placing high traffic, high attended events in the most remote place of con you could possibly go. So we're all the way in the very back of Caesar Forum this year, and as we're the same place that we were last year, by design. They want the attendees to walk through the entire convention space, see all the other things before they get to our destination.
That makes sense. It's the thing I like about Caesar's Forum, because that was my first year there last year. But I think is the con's third year there now?
Second.
Oh,
I think it's the second. Yeah, okay. I think it's the second.
Yeah, because
it was supposed to be the third year, but if I remember Riverside, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the first year we were supposed to be there, it wasn't finished yet, so they had to put us back in Paris Valleys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. They promised us a whole bunch of things, us being the conference, and then there were delays due to COVID on the completion of the project.
Yeah,
so.
I really liked forums because it's just basically one giant rectangle, and it's on some ways it's easy to direct people where to go, but then there's like little hallways and stuff. So Kathy, how did you get involved with this? Like were you there from 8 on?
Oh no. I didn't come until the early 20s. And my husband and I came to DEF CON for the very first time, and the con's reputation had really sort of preceded itself. And I spent the whole thing, like nothing bad happened. It wasn't anything like that, but I spent a lot of time feeling like I had to look over my shoulder. There was just this discomfort for me. And we walked around and we were like, okay, this is what DEF CON is, great. And on the whole, my experience was, well, that was nice. I've had the experience. I don't need to do this again. But We walked up at the time. Packanack Village was at the top of the tower in Bally's. And I remember walking in and being just sort of in awe of what I was looking at. And I saw somebody coming out with a T-shirt that had the sheep on it. And I was like, oh
It's
my God, that's
adorable.
adorable. I love it. And I walked in and I looked around and I asked some questions, and everybody was super friendly and really, like, I don't know, helpful. And ultimately I was like, how can I get one of those awesome T-shirts? And Chef, who's one of our staff, our shepherds, hands me a shirt. He goes, "You are so nice. I'm going to give you a shirt." And that was my first experience with the village. And it was such a pleasant one that although I had decided at that point I wasn't coming back, the following year I'd come up with an idea for a talk. And I reached out to a friend and said, I'm thinking about submitting this to Packanack Village because it's like I knew it wasn't really something, like I wasn't ready to even consider DEF CON main stage, right? But I was like, if you do this with me, I'll submit it. And he said yes. And so that was Chris Roberts, and he and I submitted this talk and the following year, and it was accepted, and I came back, and by that point I knew a ton more people like in the business. So the whole experience was 100% different for me. And I had such a great experience as a speaker that I hung out and wound up helping that year. And I was a volunteer for a bunch of years after that. And now last year I was the second for Info Booth, and this year I'm leading Info Booth. So, it was easy to get sucked in once you're with a bunch of folks that, treat you with respect and really are excited about what they're doing and like it, right? Like, I think that's the best part for me working Info Booth is, especially the last couple of years, we've had so many new people. We had so many women, like last year and the year before, who'd never seen any of this. And I think maybe, I don't look threatening. And so they come up and they say, what is this? Tell me about this. And I have the opportunity to just talk about how our games work and how awesome we are. And we'll get a few people who are like, oh, that looks cool, but and my response is always, look, give it a try. Sit down. You might learn a little something. If you get stuck, we're here to help you. And more often than not, they'll go and they'll get in line and they'll sit down and they'll play and they'll come over afterwards and go, "This is amazing." So that's kind of, my history with it. And because of that, it makes me want to come back every year. I joke because I hate Vegas. I don't like extreme heat. I don't gamble. I don't drink. Like, none of that appeals to me, but getting to see the excitement on these new folks' faces and the returning folks, and getting to be with our, Wall of Sheep fam, that's what it's all about.
I would be hard pressed to find a person who is less threatening looking than you from the very first time. Well, even when we first met online, just on Twitter, which is how I met so many people. It's how I got, mostly how I got to be a goon and all of that. To have somebody like you as the mama shepherd to come through and be like, no, child, everything will be fine. Nobody's gonna eat. There's no wolves here. What? So from all of your history, Riverside, from 8 to now, do you have any clarity? So for me, for Wall of Sheep and Packet Hacking, I still have a very clear memory. Vegas blends together, right? Like it's that black hole that happens in that desert. But I have a very clear memory of being in the tower at Bally's and walking in to the pack and just standing there and be like, well, I'm not sitting because like it's one of my first ones and I want to go look around, but I stood there for a very long time and just watched like people smiling and like they're this like intensity they have of looking at their screens, and it had the one of the best vibes that I've ever run into, and that is a core DEF CON memory for me, you guys and Hacker Jeopardy. Through all of your time, do you have any kind of core memories from the village where you kind of stood back and were like, this is why I do this?
There are so many. The village is glued together by some core concepts, and I think that those core concepts bring together what become those memories. So for me, I had an upbringing in a very large city where everybody was accepted and It was just a very big melting pot. And the hacker community is really much like that in some places. And in some places, it's very cliquey and it's very exclusive. And I wanted the opposite. So we're the anti-click click. That's kind of how I say it. Everybody's welcome there as long as they're there to learn and not be a jerk. And so we want to sit down and share knowledge and be together. And we have individuals from literally every walk of life. I mean, we joke around internally, and we're the group of misfit broken toys. And we come. Everyone has something going on. Everyone is from a different background. We have people from all different races, religions. Every orientation you can think of. We don't think about that. It is about the brain. It is about the energy and the sharing of knowledge and working together on cool projects. And we're constantly doing things like that. So for me, I have so many core memories when we were the first village to have an ASL speaker help somebody at con who couldn't really appreciate the con unless they had somebody speak. So we had somebody doing translation on our staff and teaching somebody that was deaf. That was amazing. I really loved the ability to do that. I grew up in special ed personally, with learning disabilities, ADHD, all the things, right? So being able to help and bring this to everyone in the community, not just the general public, was really important to me, and it still is. Having somebody on staff who happens to be one of the most brilliant pen testers that I know, who's paralyzed from the waist down and is able to do things and share and contribute to the community without feeling blocked. He really feels very, very solid and able to contribute. I think that's important, being able to bring a space to the community that is, as Investigator said, Chic said, very safe. I've been told, I try not to keep track of the numbers, but I've been told we have the most diverse group, the most females on our staff and our team out of any of the other villages. That doesn't have to do with us trying to go and get numbers up or skew things. It just happens to be that our village is open like that, and that is a huge thing for me, seeing that happen all the time.
And I'll say, when I do orientation with our new volunteers, we make it very clear that is one of our goals, right? Is we want folks to learn, but most of all, we want them to be comfortable and, in a space where they can learn. Because if you're not comfortable, you're never going to learn anything. I think that for a lot of people, they're uncomfortable in their own skin in a variety of different ways. And so if nothing else, if our volunteers understand that at the end of the day, we want them to come and play, and whatever they learn, and however much, they go home with, they come away with this positive experience that, we tell our volunteers that, we joke around, we have a good time, but we're here to help everybody.
When somebody say I'm, even if I've been to DEF CON proper a few times, but I've never actually been to the Packet Hacking Village, but I'm walking around, and as you said, Riverside designed, I walked by everything else, and I see this village, and I walk in for the first time. What's somebody going to see walking into the Packet Hacking Village the first time?
So we try to make the experience feel completely different from the rest of the con. We want to make it feel like you're walking through a threshold into a different world. And so when you walk in, you go from bright hall lights into a lower dim lit room with some form of typically EDM music going, something that's not too hardcore in your face, but that will help keep your energy going. We want a high energy in the room. You'll see Investigator Chic and her team at the info booth right at the front, and then it opens up into this giant space this year, and has in others, where you'll have events such as Packet Detective, Packet Inspector. You'll have the Wall of Sheep. You'll have walkthrough workshops, Capture the Packet. and now hardwired. And inside of that are tons of sub events. There's really something for everyone. We were originally asked if we wanted to be called the Blue Team Village, and we're like, no, because we do some offensive stuff as well. They're like, well, you could be, kind of red, and we're like, oh, no, we're not. And that was before the Red or Blue Team Village became a thing. After all, they're like, well, you could be the Purple Team Village. We're kind of focused on some really cool security research. We're a lot of network related items. So we have a workshop on how to learn how to do network operating systems. So Juniper and Cisco gear, if you want to learn how to become a net admin or a sysadmin on that. We have a workshop related to cracking passwords. That's not related to networking and things necessarily. We have a really cool botnet workshop that teaches you how to build a botnet, and that you're like, well, that's very offensive, but it's designing, building up the botnet so you can learn how they work, so you can defend better against them. And so that's the purpose behind that, because if you don't touch a thing, you don't know it. You need to know how the adversary plays and works. And by working with the actual botnets, you can do a lot. And we have honeypot workshops as well, where we teach people how to design and build and set up a honeypot so that they can deploy that into their own network and have sensors and see things get popped. We have a Linux trainer for people that are brand new. They don't know Linux. They want to play on a bunch of things around con, and they're like, oh my God, I need to know Linux, and I don't know Linux. I work on Windows all day. So we built a Linux trainer for people to play on. We have a regular expression trainer. I mentioned packet. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. A lot of people are like, oh my God, not regular expressions. But it's so funny. I had somebody comment to me after con. They went through the regular expression trainer last year, and they contacted me afterwards. Like, I've been using these regular expressions in my Excel documents. I've been using them all over the place. Like, it's made me so much more productive in life. Thank you for letting me do this. I think they might have said, thank you for forcing me to do this, because I was like 6. But there are a lot of things inside of the village. Of course, Capture the Packet is a spin out of what we were doing with Wall of Sheep. So a lot of people don't realize that the Wall of Sheep, over time, we were teaching other people how to capture packets on the wire of DEF CON, and understanding where the threats were and how threat hunting functioned. And so anybody that wanted to walk up, they could sit down and start looking at the traffic, and we would teach them how to do the thing. So, well, what are you doing? For example, you're familiar with Brian Krebs, I'm sure.
Yes,
Krebs on security. So I want to say it was like DEF CON 18 or 19, something like that. He was still working for, I want to say, the Washington Post at the time. Came up to us and said, hey, I want to learn this. I want to truly become an awesome investigative journalist and be able to do this, but I need to know the tech hardcore. Show me, teach me, show me what's on this network, explain the things. And he sat with us for a couple years, just learning everything that he could possibly learn from us. And you can see how well it's helped him. I mean, he's doing fantastic. I mean, it really, really helped him with where he was going with all the things. And so from day one, where you see thousands potentially of logins, to current day where you're seeing maybe some hundreds, because people are using encryption, and there's a lot of, you see cookies and there's other things. We had to make some choices. How do we teach people how to analyze traffic for threats, find credentials, do all the things on the most hostile network in the world without boring them to death, right? On day one in DEF CON 8, in a minute, I could see 100 FTP logs. And you get that aha moment. You're like, I caught one. And somebody could go in and catch a sheep in seconds, and then they're like, I caught a sheep, I'm good, right? Fast forward 10 years, as more and more people use encryption, they're not going to wait an hour. They're there's drinking, there's a lot of things going on in DEF CON. There's a lot of ADHD people that just, their attention's just less than that used to be in the new generation, perhaps. But they just don't want to sit that long to get that aha moment. So we built Capture the Packet in 2009 and released in 2010, which is a traffic generator based around this traffic and the things that we did at DEF CON. So we could have them sniff the traffic coming off the traffic generator, and instead of them waiting an hour for an FTP login, they maybe get several dozen in a minute again, and then they could go through and learn from that. And we built challenges and a series of training off of that. And when I say Packet Detective and Packet Inspector as events, they're all based on and using the Capture Packet engine. The Packet Inspector is for beginners and intermediate. It's just getting them in and starting from, ground one or ground floor. I guess it would be zero, probably. And then Packet Detective is for intermediate and advanced folks. And then Capture the Packet is historically been a black badge event since 2010, a black badge event most of the years. And that's truly expert level game right there.
It's so cool. As much as I'm madly in love with gooning, and that takes all of my time now, I do want to come a year and just dedicate just to sit there. When people come to the when people first walk in and they see the info booth, Chic, what are some of the most common questions that you get from people when they're coming into the village?
So probably the number one question is, what do you do here? They come in, they hear the music, they see we sometimes have blinky lights going, and they're just overwhelmed. What is all of this?
Yeah.
And so that's probably the number one question. And so I give a condensed version of what River was just saying about, we have these games and you can learn all these different things. And the other questions are things like, do I need to bring my own equipment? And the answer is nope. We provide all that for you. All you have to do is play. Yep. We do.
That's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry, River. I was just about to ask. Can I assume they could bring their own stuff, or do you have to have a specifically set up machine by the village?
It's really based on the event. So Capture the Packet, the Black Badge event, of course, you're going to bring your own gear. You sit down, and some people bring servers. They have all sorts of stuff. But almost all of the other activities within the village, we get sponsors for the village, and the sponsorship dollars we've invested in equipment. We have hundreds of laptops that we lay out across the village because so many people don't bring equipment to DEF CON, or they left their laptop in the room and they don't want to go 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back to get something to do it. It just removed that barrier to entry. We have actually quite a few goons that wander in when they're off shift or taking their break. We drop them down onto a workstation. You get priority, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
I have no idea. No, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I never like to assume. I like that I have my off-duty shirt and my badge, but I don't want to come and be like, "What's up, guys?"
Yeah, no. I mean, you guys work really hard to make the event happen, and you're there to learn and have fun too. So it's important for us to make sure that the goons get taken care of. And being somebody who's retired former SOC goon and then now a department lead, I mean, it's really important for me, especially, to take care of the people that are helping make the event happen.
How are you planning year round? When does planning begin for 32? 31 closes this year. We do closing ceremonies. When does planning for 32 begin?
It started about 3 months ago.
So I tell people.
I'm not joking.
No. I know.
Not joking. It is 100% year round. We have so many things that go into it that people don't realize. We have 15,000 square foot space, and Dr. Chic, you would be able to tell us the rough volunteer count. Somewhere between 80 and 120. I don't know. What is it?
Yeah. I mean, if you include the people who are volunteers and staff, we're a little over 100 this year, and there's probably a handful that aren't even in that count. So,
and that's with us being short-staffed.
Yes.
Really?
So there are 100 plus people that go into this. That we have a storage facility that has equipment in it year round. It takes a box truck, a giant moving truck, to move all the gear out of that into the convention space. It takes a tremendous amount of planning, repairing gear, getting new supplies, going through all of the pains and turmoil of getting sponsors to be able to make this happen each year. That's a struggle. It used to be easy. We were the first village to ever do that. We were really cool about it. And then more villages that popped out, and more villages saw what we were doing. They're like, "Oh, we need some money too to bring up our game." So we're all fighting for the same pool of money. And with COVID and the inflation and the economy right now with all the layoffs, companies are not handing out money like they used to. So it's a lot harder, and you have to do more with less, and that's real. And there's a lot of our crew and people that we really love, we'd love to have at the event that just can't make it for some reason or another this year because of whether it's job related, health related, whatever it might be. But it's a lot of work. We bring new challenges and new content every single year to the event. We've released I don't know, multiple pieces of technology that we have patents on and all sorts of crazy things. So, for example, Hardwired, which I very briefly mentioned, it's a game that we created that is to teach people how to build network cables. And
nice.
the base inside of it right now is for our RJ45 Cat5 cable. So many people want to hardwire their house. They want to run cable for this or that. They don't want to use wireless for whatever reason, or they can't. And that skill is just gone. I ran 12,000 feet of Cat5 a day for one of the jobs back in the 90s and the early 2000s. And it was something I did. And they don't teach it very many places anymore. It's not kind of part of the curriculum. And so we made a game, a competition where you have to build a cable as fast as you can. You plug it in and it times you, and there's a scoreboard and all sorts of other cool stuff. And we're adding to that this year. But yeah, it was released last year, and we're upping the game this year.
That's so freaking cool. It's funny you say that because yeah, I did the same. Not as many hours as you did, but before I got to security, I did general like networking and switch installation and things like that. So I would have to roll my own cables, and I hadn't done it in like 20 years. And I have a barn. Our house is 200 years old, and I was like, I can't afford the Wi-Fi just yet. So I ran a cable 200 feet from my house, and I like ran it through a screen window, and my buddy just dropped off the crimping kit, and I've seldom wanted to kill myself so badly than when I made that stupid cable for 20 years of not doing it. I just couldn't figure it out, and finally, it worked. And there's a satisfaction of beating the gods when you successfully make a network cable.
We had so many people come in and they're like, "Oh my God, I've been in IT forever and I've never made a cable," and they walk out with their first cable they've ever made. Like, yes.
And then, dude, I gotta tell this story real quick. So I went through this, right? And I got like the Cat 6 and I upgraded my stuff here. And because we were hosting, it was one of the years that it was like, it wasn't the first safe mode. It was the kind of half safe mode that next year. So Lintile stayed over at my house and we did Hacker Jeopardy from my barn. And I strung the cable because I wasn't going to risk it with wireless. And right before the second round of Hacker Jeopardy, a buddy of mine leaves. And I said, whatever you do not drive over there. Because it was like strung across the driveway because we just rigged it up. Like, you would think this was like 1998. And what does he do? He just hauls ass over the cable, rips it out of my window. And then we had to go... And he rips it out, and it's right before, and I had to sit, luckily it was early enough in the day, and so we sent somebody to Best Buy to get a cable, and we did this, and it caused a whole bunch of shit. But now the ripped out cable part I gave to Lintile. He's going to turn it into like a badge or a trophy or something, but it caused so much friction, and I was like, what year is it? Why are we having these problems? But yeah, it's all something we could commiserate with.
The ability to just fix a cable in general is so fun. I mean, people just throw out phone cables. They throw out all these cables when there's a kink or a problem with it, and I just take it to my bench and pull it apart, resolder the thing, fix it together. There's thousands of dollars to be saved across somebody's life if they learn how to do some basic troubleshooting and repair work. And
my son finally started to say that, like, he sit and watches me enough now where he's like, I want to do that. And I can't wait to have him build his first computer with me. Cause like my first love was hardware. Like I learned it through going through school, but I like legitimately fell in love with it. And I love knowing how to do that stuff now. And it's something that I never wanted. Like, I could have everything else go to hell, but if I could still work on hardware, I'd be a very, very happy person doing that. Where do you see, and I'll pose this to both of you, Chic or River, where do you see packet hacking village Wall of Sheep going in the next 5 years? Do you guys have long term plans where you want to see it? Do you want is it still growing? Is it I know how like some villages are always like fighting for space, or like some are kind of stay stagnant. Like where do you both of you see the village going in the next 3 to 5 years? Or better yet, where do you want it to be?
So the village, if you look at the definition of village, it's what 2,000 people or something like that. We have tens of thousands of people in our area. So really, it's Pacatacum City, I think, is the next level. But we have kind of honed in on this concept that we really like. We used to have instructor-led workshops, and we would have a classroom sitting, and we get 20 to 40 people sitting down in that classroom, and we do those like every hour, couple hours, and we have those going nonstop. And we realized that it took a lot of space and resources for a very small amount of attendees to be able to do that. So what we did is we started focusing on walkthrough workshops, which is a concept that we created, where we have a series of activities that somebody can sit down and read or watch a video and go through the full step, all of them, to do something. And then we have a bunch of instructors around, and they can raise their hand, and if they get stuck, we'll help them. But it's really for them to walk themselves through the knowledge and the education and the material. And I'd like to do a lot more of what we're doing at a much larger scale. So each year we're trying to bring new things to it, or fine tune and refine what we have. This is a year where we're bringing a new walkthrough workshop, Fleet DM with OS query for threat hunting. We're trying that out because it's an open source. People use it all over the place. Every company is using some form of that in the large, Fortune 100 or 500s for massive inventory. It's basically doing SQL of OSs and seeing what's going on, which is fantastic. So we're doing that. We're going to continue to try to bring that, and then also, which just like the core of why we're doing the village. If it's fun for us, if it's fun for Investigator Chic, if we want it, that's what we're going to do. So the way that we choose our speakers at our village is if we want to hear the talk.
Right? Yeah.
They're like, if it's fun for us, if it's cool for us, and we think that others can get value out of it, awesome. I mean, but we're doing our own thing in our village. Like there's con, and they always say we're the con within the con. I mean, it really is. We're just trying to have fun and do our thing inside of there. And if we continue having fun, people come in and they have fun too.
Kathy,
what are you thinking, Investigator?
Well, I mean, you are our glorious leader. So really, I follow what direction you'll take us. I will say, the more of these workshops we do, the more people we need to help us do them. So if we, hopefully we'll be able to continue to grow that pool, because that is probably, the biggest challenge is we're there for a long day and it's awesome, but we can always use extra help. So beyond that, I don't really have a vision. I just kind of follow your lead. Like, it's your vision, and we help shape that, but it's really kind of up to what you see, and it's done us well so far.
And
go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to ask, like, how if somebody has been in there and like, I really want to be a part of this and help volunteer, how do you hold like open calls? How do people volunteer for the?
It's kind of very much like the way that the goons are selected in a way. We for the longest time we have people that sit down and play, and they're kind of around all the time. They might help out with just basic stuff on the floor, and they'll have a conversation, and they might say, "Hey, I'd like to volunteer." And if the individual there feels like they're trustworthy, that they can do that, then they might try them out or sponsor them. The way that we used to do is, if I could take my work laptop, I could open it up, set it down on a table, go to the restroom at con, come back, and no shenanigans happened while that person was watching my laptop, then that's the kind of person that I want to have there. I want to have people that watch our back and our equipment and our things, and we bring literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to the convention space, and we're sharing out a lot of material and information. I mean, like when Investigator Chick was talking about her book and thoughts and concepts on that, and rattling off ideas amongst the team. It's a trusted small community. I mean, the Wall of Sheep turned from a thing on plates on the wall to a projected screen to really a community and a hack team and a group of people that are friends that are sharing things. And when I say it in that way, it's an ethical team. It's but we're all trying to help promote each other and share knowledge and do things. And if somebody is there and they want to help and they have the proper intentions, then it's typically pretty visible, and they ask, and then we will try them out, just like with a goon.
Where do you guys like to go? Do you even have time? I found myself, since like that's my thing is I goon and then I try to sleep, and then I sleep, I wake up, and it's time for parties. But this year I'm actively trying to do more and go to different places. Do you have places you like to go outside of, like, is there a spot like, oh, I really want to go see Hackasat, I really want to go see, the car hacking village? Like, do you have other places that you just play attendee for a little bit and go and like to go to?
Personally, that I don't. There's a lot of places I would love to see. Don't get me wrong. I love seeing my friends, but I'm kind of anchored at the village.
Right, yeah, I imagine.
Time. Here's a funny story. I'll tell you. This happened at the Riviera. It happened at the Riviera. This is the first time I realized it. So, we were in the back by the big CTF. There was the big CTF main, and then our village, and across this large floor, and the bathrooms were across the large floor. And for me to get to the restroom and back to the village was taking a tremendous amount of time. And so I was walking across the village, and some of the other volunteers or the other crew were with me, and go over, and somebody approached me, and they kind of like blocked the individual. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, well, I'm your blocker. I'm like, what's my blocker? And they're like, oh, it's my job to make sure that you can get to the bathroom and back in a reasonable amount of time. Otherwise, it should take you 2 hours of talking to everybody to get back to the village. And I had no idea, but one of my team members assigned me blockers so that I could get back. That was hilarious.
That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
I mean, you get to the point where you have to go to the bathroom, especially me as an ADHD individual. I'll have to go to the restroom, but then I'll squirrel away and I'll think of something else. And then, an hour later, I'm like, oh man, I really have to go to the restroom. And then if it takes me another hour to get to the restroom from the village to the bathroom, it could be rather detrimental to my health. So that was kind of interesting.
That almost, the first thing that reminded me of is like some of the videos you see online. I don't know if you watch sports or not, but there's one dude responsible for keeping, like, on the sidelines for football. There's one particular coach who never pays attention to where he is in the field, and it's that dude's job to keep him in bounds and get to where he's going. The fact
I have one of those.
You have your own bathroom blocker. That's funny, and again, very sweet. Somebody thought of that for you, and that, I like that person. Whoever that person was that thought of that idea is a good person.
So we have a bunch of rules with our volunteers, and one of them is that you're always watching everybody else, making sure that their safety and everybody's safety. You see a cable sticking up on the ground that's a trip hazard, it's not somebody else's job to take it down. It's your job. If you see somebody that's looking dehydrated, make sure that they get help. Like, take care of the team and the people that are there. That's one of our highest priorities. And that's another thing that goes to what she was saying, as far as like how people feel a little bit more safe in our area, because we're always trying to look out for each other. It's not every person for themselves. This is the hacker camp from hell. This is actually a really great event overall, and most of the places in DEF CON are like that. But we really kicked that on, and I took a lot of that from early gooning, and that's how we treat our people. I mean, a lot of our team members are retired goons and folks. We actually have a couple additional retired goons that have been retired for many years that are coming and volunteering with us for the first time this year. But it's just a fun place.
That's awesome. And I was about to say, I could definitely, just from the way that you talk about it and how you've organized it, just knowing what I know of how the SOC is run and the people that I've got to learn from. We talked to Ada Zebra the other day about the hotline, and I'm learning under people like Chaos and Wham and stuff. So like it feels that you've taken all of that really, really good lessons on safety and things like that and are infusing it into that village. Like I can't wait to see it again this year. Chic, do you have other? Are you tied to the village now, or you're tied to the village now?
I've been tied to the village. I do tend to get out in the evening, and my thing is to see people, right? So the thing that I tell people is, come see me. I'm tied to the village, but unlike Riverside, I'm not running around doing all the things. I'm sitting there answering questions. So I tell people, look, you want to come see me? You want to come find me? Come to Packanack Village, come to the info booth, sit down, have a seat, take a load off, let's catch up, And so that's really kind of how it works best for me, because I don't have to look for people. They can just come to me, and I'm easy to find because I'm not moving around. I'm like, if I'm not there, wait 5 minutes because I probably went to the restroom and I'm on my way back. So, and I will say, there are a couple things. I have some health issues, and the team is really great about stepping up to make sure that I can go get food when I need to. And, this year I'm going to have a book signing, and we're going to need some coverage, and they're going to make sure that I have that so I can go and.
You're so fancy.
So
fancy. I'm like, oh yeah, I have to volunteer, but I'm also doing my book signing. Congratulations, by the way. That is out now, right? People can get it now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I am steadily in awe, and it has not abated since my first DEF CON, which was 24, to now, to the things that I get to be involved in, that I get to meet people like you, Kathy, and like you, River, and whether you know it or not, so many people are watching and learning from the things that you do, and they could not have better role models to learn from. And so I hope that you do realize the impact that you have had on people. Like I said at the top of the show, you're a core memory for me. And like, we've never even met face to face. Like we talked a little bit earlier, like, oh yeah, I've seen you do this and I've seen you do this, but you've been a core memory for me for 7-8 years now. Kathy will be forever. So I want to thank you. We are up on time because I got to do another thing, and then I got to do another thing because it's Vegas time. So Riverside, thank you so much for taking time out of your clearly very busy schedule. Kathy, you as well. And again, for anybody who is going to DEF CON, it's a really good time. I'm so excited. One of my favorite things when I get to like goon like a track line or something is asking for a show of hands, like whose first con is this? Because I have so much to tell you, and I want to hear all of the questions and help them along. So if you are going, all of those maps are available on defcon.org for Caesar's Forums, for Flamingo, for Link. Caesar's Forums, again, big rectangle. It's like, it looks really big. It looks hard to find things, but it won't be. It's a great time. I cannot wait to go. It's almost less than 2 weeks now. So thank both of you for coming on. And we're going to talk to later on the Social Engineer Village. We're going to talk to Snow and JC in just a couple hours. And then on Friday, we have Steve Reagan. Steve D3 is going to come on. And it's all Vegas all week long. And I'm super excited. Thank you guys so much.